He's repeating
back in the line.
Exact same line.
Let's do this again.
Let's dance. And
I don't think
has Garry already figured out an antidote to this incredible C5 pawn sacrifice that Wesley essayed earlier in the day?
Well, it doesn't look as though he has, because he's hesitating right now as Wesley has repeated the exact same line. Garry's a very principled player. If he doesn't believe you, he will play the same variation. But right now,
E5.
and he has played the move, and they're in the exact same position where Wesley, in this position, essayed. Wait, no, the last time he played C5, didn't he? In this position.
Yeah, he played H3, bishop D7, C5.
H3, bishop, right, that's correct. Now he's played a different move, allowing knight to F6, and now they're in the King's Indian proper, except that bishop sitting on G4 and the white knight on D2, the two key changes in the position. And guess what? C5 is back on the board yet again. This C5 move is thematic as far as Wesley So is concerned, and he's opened up the C line very quickly without any tempo losses, chasing the bishop now at H3 and pushing Garry backwards. And where's that bishop going to go? D7, but that allows eventually the move knight to C4, so he's preparing it as Wesley So with rook to E1. He didn't want to hang his E-pawn.
You remember it wasn't so pretty for Garry in the last battle when he had a knight sitting on C8 in order to defend against knight C4, so he's played the move B5.
No, he did not play B5.
I'm suggesting the move B5 because everything Marie said was right on the button, and that knight on C4...
And he did it.
Yeah, of course. The knight on C4 is going to be so powerful that you just stop it. You just have to stop it. That's all it comes down to. And Wesley just played the move Bishop E1. Principal idea in the position
Bishop F1.
Bishop F1. Principal idea in the position for black is to get in the move F5. But Garry, recognizing that his knight on E7 doesn't have a future, has played knight C8 in order to come to B6. And look at this, Wesley playing beautiful. Both players anticipating the plans of one another. Wesley's played B3 so that when that knight comes to B6, it doesn't have either C4 or A4 as an outpost.
Also, you have to look out for bishop A3 now, another way to target the pawn on D6.
Exactly.
By the way, in the other game, Nakamura has gotten a bit of an edge with the black pieces. If he wins the game, he's virtually guaranteed winning the tournament, although mathematically it still would be up for grabs. But very rich position here. Very complex position. When we do this next time, we're going to have to stagger these games instead of doing them simultaneously, because we want to see both games, of course.
They're fantastic.
They're just incredible to watch all these games. Of course, it would take longer for the broadcast, but I think that the fans would forgive us with such thrilling games going on at the same time.
I couldn't agree with you more, Maurice. Each game should be showcased. These players are just phenomenal, and they're giving us a fantastic treat. And they should be showcased. So that game, still, all to play for. I see 3 results as possible. And let's switch back to Garry's game for a second, as the players have been taking their time.
A4 and A6 have been inserted into the position, and now Wesley taking on B5. At some point, we might be able to make use of that A6 square to get some extra pressure on D6.
The problem in this position for white is this knight on D2 with the pawn on B5. The knight doesn't seem to have a natural square. It's going to have to go back to B1 and find the C3 square. But at the moment, his center is just suddenly under attack with this move F5 by Kasparov. And so this knight sitting on D2 is a passive square, so he's going to be busy doing other things. He's just playing the move rook to A6.
Tying knights down. And it'd be really sweet if we could play knight G5 and hop into E6. Unfortunately, that square it's not accessible, so we can't really do anything with either of our knights here. So white's position looking powerful, except for the knight position.
Agreed. And this rook on A6 is really bothersome. You'd really love to play the move rook B6 here, but you don't want to walk into bishop B4 to A5, which would pin the rook and win an exchange. So pressure for Wesley, and a beautiful move by Garry. posting his bishop on h6. It's all about activating your pieces, and we can see that this rook on a6, the bishop on b4, very, very active. Bishop on g7 wasn't doing much, now has a better diagonal.
And now we see an exchange on f5, and Garry has taken with the bishop on that square.
Oh, with the bishop.
Unexpected.
I don't
Indeed,
like that at all.
Because of the e4 square, right?
Absolutely. Maurice has been talking about what is that knight on d2 going to do? Well, if you recapture with the bishop, and there he
Wesley's
goes.
lashed out with g4, and now he's going to be ready to play the knight into e4 next.
A beautiful move by Wesley. I really like how, Wesley is playing great game.
And you see a little shaken as Garry brings his bishop back to d7, perhaps not regretting not capturing with the pawn.
He had to.
Because now there's three pieces.
He had to capture with the pawn because there was a tactic in the position with the rook on a6 attacking the bishop all the way across the board on h6.
Oh.
There was a sacrifice
on
in
e5,
that moment.
right? There's knight
on
takes
e5.
e5.
There was knight takes e5. So he actually tactically slept on that one with his bishop on the h6 square, and that is why he took back with the bishop instead of with the pawn, and is now strategically worse.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and all of White's pieces looking very, very good.
That's right, forced to defend with the queen, which also creates another pin and potential tactics in the position, although right now everything is held on to here.
Right.
I would love to be able to play the move knight d4, jumping into the position, but for the moment, the discoveries don't seem like they lead to anything.
And in the other game, Hikaru is owning. Well, he just played rook takes d7, and now an opposite color bishop position where he is hoping that he has a drawing hand. But wait a minute,
bishop d2.
What is up with bishop?
There's bishop d2, but we have rook e7 here. So if
he also has rook e2, just attacking the bishop, and there it is.
E2, yeah.
And now he's gotten a pawn back, but he's down one on the board, and he's got a d pawn he's got to deal with. d6, rook to f3.
Garry barely holding on and playing for his life here.
So now what do you do after rook c7?
He's going to have to drop. He's going to have to go into full passive mode, I'm afraid. And he's played your move rook c7, Jen. I think he's going to have to play rook on f3 back to f8.
Oh, he's played b4.
b4, and now
completely ignoring the d pawn because he's got a b pawn himself.
That's right. So now if we play instead king g2, it looks like Wesley just played king g2. At some point he's maybe going to play f4 to create another bas pawn.
No, but this is good defense by black. There's no way to crash through, and the b pawn's on the board. So there's just Kasparov has understood White cannot crash through. This is the key.
Rook e2 trying to double rooks on the 7th there, and you notice that if you play b3 and we play rook e7 and you play b2, we actually just have mate and do, right?
Exactly.
Mate and
but
three.
it's not mate. Rook f6 will control the position
of course,
later.
It's not forced,
so he can go for it, Kasparov, but he has to make a calculation really fast and realize that he is defending with rook to f6 at the right moment. He should just chase with his b pawn, and instead he's going after the d pawn.
So he just played rook to d8, and we see rook e6.
Yeah, the Indians did not like Garry's defense at all. Now he's just down material, but his b pawn is a counterplay.
Running. And does Wesley? What is Wesley's idea now? So he snapped up a pawn. He always has this draw in hand.
Perpetual check in hand. Yes.
But he has a big edge on the clock. He's not going to try to perpet this position. No way.
Well, he has to find some way to stop the b pawn.
But I don't.
But he can stop the b pawn. Can't he put a rook on b7 at some point and make
No,
it
he can
happen?
play rook c1, b2, rook b1. But in that case, he should have his rook. He should play rook back to h6.
You're asking him to go passive?
He can't
Yes.
go. He doesn't have time for rook g7, b2, rook b7 because we can just queen in that position.
Right.
And
but
then,
I'm saying rook h6, king g8, and then go passive with this rook. He's got 3 pawns versus 1.
Right.
Yeah.
That's his
But
only.
why can't he? Why can't he put his? I don't understand why he can't put his rook. Why can't he put his rook to h7 and when the pawn?
Because then you after rook b7 we can just queen.
No, what happens on rook h7
Rook
right
h7,
now?
b2.
b2.
And there is no mating idea with.
No, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Then I play the rook c to g7 with check.
King
and then when
f8.
your king goes to f8, play rook b7.
Okay, and the king goes back to g8. And I still got the b pawn.
You're still threatening to queen. That's true.
Right.
That's a tricky line. Rook h7 doesn't make sense.
exciting game.
Yeah, there's all those kinds of drawing formations with the double rook attacks, right?
Right.
Oh,
and Wesley now in time pressure.
Oh, there was a way to do it. There was a way. You move your rook over to d7 in that position. The rook on the h file. He has to take the draw now, and Garry has repeated. Well, that one we'll look at. He did have a way to make